Friends, in this lecture of discrete structures, we are going to study section 1.4, which is about predicates and quantifiers. So, summary of the sections. In this section, we are going to define predicates. We'll study quantifiers. There are major two types of quantifiers: universal and existential quantifiers. Negating quantifiers and how to negate quantifiers with the help of De Morgan's laws for quantifiers, and then we will translate English sentences to logic. So first of all, why do we need predicates and quantifiers? Because propositional logic was not enough. So propositional logic studied in the section 1.1 to 1.3 cannot adequately express the meaning of all the statement in mathematics and in natural language. So for example, suppose that we know that every computer connected to the university network is functioning properly. No rules of propositional logic allow us to conclude the truth of the statement, the computer math 3 is functioning properly. Similarly, we cannot use the rules of propositional logic to conclude from the statement that the computer CS2 is under attack by an intruder to the truth of the statement there is a computer on the university network that is under attack by an intruder. So, if we have a statement, rather a couple of statements, all men are mortal and Socrates is a man. So does this imply Socrates is mortal? Cannot be represented in propositional logic. So we need a language that talks about objects, their properties, and their relations. So we need something else. So later we'll see how to draw inference and how to draw conclusions. So introducing predicate logic. So in this section, we are going to introduce another type of logic, which is called predicate logic. So we'll see how predicate logic can be used to express the meaning of a wide range of statements in mathematics and computer science in ways that permit us to reason and explore a relationship between objects. So understand predicate logic, we first need to introduce the concept of predicate. So what is predicate first of all? So afterwards, we'll introduce the notion of quantifiers, which enable us to reason with statement that assert that a certain property holds for all objects of a certain type, and with the statement that assert the existence of an object with a particular property. So predicate logic uses the following new features. Variables. In propositional logic, variables were not allowed. Now in predicate logic, we are going to use variables. Predicates, that is the condition which depends upon the values of the variables like px, mx. Quantifiers. Propositional functions are the generalization of propositions, and in this section, we'll be dealing with propositional functions. So they contain variables and a predicate. So variables can be replaced by elements from their domain. So we need to define we need to have variables, we need to define predicate, we need to determine the domain for the variables. So for example, if we have a statement x is greater than 3, we have another statement x is equal to y plus 3, we have another statement x plus y is equal to z, and computer x is under attack by an intruder. We have another statement computer x is functioning properly. So all these statements are often found in mathematical assertions, in computer programs, and in system specifications. So these statements are neither true nor false when the values of the variables are not specified. So in this section, we'll discuss the ways that propositions can be produced from such statements. So the statement x is greater than 3 has two parts. The first part, the variable x, this is the first part of the statement, which is a variable x. And this is called the subject of the statement. And the second part is the condition, is greater than 3. So this is called predicate, refers to the property that the subject of the statement can have. So we can denote the statement x is greater than 3 by p x. P depends upon x, where p denotes the predicate, that is the property, which is in this case is greater than 3, and x here is the variable. So the statement px is said to be the value of propositional function p at x. Propositional function become propositions and have truth values when their variables are replaced by the value from the domain. So domain is very important in predicate logic, or bound by a quantifier. We'll see later in this lecture. For example, px denote x is greater than 0 and the domain be the set of integers. Then p minus 3 is false, because minus 3 is greater than 0 is false. So p minus 3 is false. Similarly, p0 is also false, because 0 is greater than 0 is false. p3 is true, because 3 is greater than 0 is true. So we can assign any value to x from the set of integers, because domain consists of the set of integer. Now there is another example. Let ax denote the statement computer x is under attack by an intruder. Suppose that of the computers on campus, only CS2 and Math 1 are currently under attack by the intruders. So what are truth values of ACS1, ACS2 and AMath1? So in this case, domain is consists of the computers on campus, right? And CS1 is computer on campus, but we know that only CS2 and Math 1 are currently under attack, so ACS1 is false. But ACS2 is true. Similarly, AMath 1 is also true, because this is given that CS2 and Math 1 are currently under attack by the intruders. Now we have another propositional function qxy. It depends upon two variables and denote the statement x is equal to y plus 3. Now what are the truth values of the propositions q12 and q30? So q12 means 1 is equal to 2 plus 3. So this ordered pair, in this ordered pair, order matters. So x is replaced by 1 in this statement and y is replaced by 2 in this statement. So this is false. So q12 is false. So q30 will be the statement 3 is equal to 0 plus 3. And this is true, because 3 is equal to 3. So this is how we can determine the truth values to these propositional functions by assigning the particular values to the variables from the domain. In general, a statement involving n variables, x1, x2, xn, can be denoted by p, which depends upon x1, x2, xn. A statement of the form px1, x2, xn is the value of the propositional function p at n tuple x1, x2, xn. And p is called n place predicate, or sometimes we call it n array predicate. So let x plus y is equal to z be denoted by rxyz, and the domain for all three variables be integers. So find the truth values of the following statements. R2 minus 5. So what does R2 minus 5 represent? It represents, just replace x by 2, y by minus 1 and z by 5. So let's see what happens. 2 minus 1 is equal to 5. And this is not true. That is, this is false. So this is false. R3, 4, 7. So just replace x by 3, y by 4 and z by 7. So this is true. Next, Rx3z. Now, this statement consists of variables. We cannot assign any truth value because this is not a proposition. So now let x minus y is equal to z be denoted by qxyz with domain as the integers. Again, find the truth values. So q2 minus 1, 3. So we are going to replace x by 2, y by minus 1 and c by 3. So 2 plus 1, 3. 3 is equal to 3 is true. So this statement is true. Now q3, 4, 7. So again, replace x by 3 in this statement, y by 4 and z by 7. So this is not true. This is false. Similarly, qx3z, we cannot assign any truth value to this statement because variables are involved in this statement and this is not a proposition. Well, connectives from proposition logic carry over the predicate logic. So we have compound expressions in predicate logic as well. If px denotes x greater than 0, find the truth values p3 or p minus 1. So since 3 is greater than 0, that is p3 is true and p minus 1 is false. So true or false gives us true. So the truth value of this statement is true. Next, p3 and p minus 1. Now p3 is true, p minus 1 is false. So truth value of this compound statement is false. p3 implies p minus 1. So since p3 is true, so this actually gives us true implies false. So this is false. By the definition of conditional statement, you know that this is false. So p3 implies negation of p minus 1. Now since p minus 1 is false, negation of p minus 1 will be true. So this is the statement true implies true, and this is true by the definition of conditional statement. So expression with variables are not propositions and therefore do not have truth values. For example, p3 and py, we cannot assign any truth values because we don't have the specific value of y in this statement. Similarly, px implies py, so we cannot assign any truth value unless we assign particular values to x and y. When used with quantifiers to be introduced next, these expression will make sense. So let's wait for the quantifiers for a while. Well, quantifiers. We need quantifiers to express the meaning of English words, including all and some. In conversations, sometimes we use these words, and how to represent these words in logic. For this, we need to introduce a concept of quantifiers, and we need to learn the concept of quantifiers. So in this sections, we are going to define quantifiers, and we'll discuss few types of quantifiers as well. Like we have a statement, all men are mortal. Some cats do not have fur. So the two most important quantifiers are the universal quantifier, which is used for all, that is all men are mortal. So symbol for this quantifier is the A upside down, that is the horizontal reflection of A. And existential quantifier, there exist. We read it as there exist, and symbol is the vertical reflection of E. So we write as in for all x px, this is the notation for universal quantifier, and for existential quantifier we write it as there exists x px, where px is the propositional function, x is the variable. So p is predicate, px is propositional function, and x is a variable. For all x px asserts px is true for every x in domain. There exists x px asserts px is true for some x in the domain. For all x px can be false as well. There exists px x px can be false as well, and we'll see in which situations this is going to be true, and these quantified statements are going to be false. So the quantifiers are said to bind the variable x in these expressions. So let's discuss more about the universal quantifier. So many mathematical statements assert that a property is true for all values of a variable in particular domain. The domain here is very important, which is sometimes called domain of discourse, or the universe of discourse, or often we just refer it as domain. So such a statement is expressed using universal quantification. The universal quantification of px for a particular domain is the proposition that asserts that px is true for all values of x in this domain. Note that domain specifies the possible values of the variable. The meaning of the universal quantification of px changes. This is very important. Changes when we change the domain. We'll see this through examples in next slides. The domain must always be specified when a universal quantifier is used. Without it, the universal quantification of a statement is not defined. So this is very, very important. So again, we are summarizing the facts we just discussed. The universal quantification of px is the statement px for all values of x in the domain, right? For all x px, we read it as for all x px, or for every x px. If px denotes x greater than 0 and domain is the integers, then for all x px is false, because we have negative integers, and for negative integers this statement is not true. Similarly, we have 0 in the domain, and 0 greater than 0 is also not true. So for all x px is not true. So for all x px means for every x in the domain x is greater than 0. So this is not true, of course. So that is why for all x px is false when the domain is integers. Now, if px denotes same statement, x greater than 0, and domain is positive integers. See, the change in domain changes the truth value. So if px denotes x greater than 0 and domain is positive integers, then for all x px is true, because for every x in the domain that is in the set of positive integers, this property holds, right? So for all x px is true. So the change of domain affects the truth value of the quantification. Now, if px denotes x is even and domain is the integers, then for all x px is false, right? Because every integer is not even. Integers are odd as well. So for all x px is false when domain is integers. So an element for which px is false is called a counter example of for all x px. So we'll discuss this in detail in next slides. There is an example in your book, example number 8. Let px be the statement x plus 1 is greater than x. What is the truth value of the quantification for all x px, where the domain consists of all real numbers? So for all real numbers, this property holds. Whenever x is a real number, x plus 1 is greater than x. So this is true. So for all x, Px is true in this case. Generally, an implicit assumption is made that all domains of discourse for quantifiers are non-empty. But if the domain is empty, then for all x, Px is true for any propositional function Px because there are no elements x in domain for which Px is false. So we cannot say that for all x, Px is false. Then if we cannot say for all x, Px is false, then it is considered to be true. Besides, for all and for every, universal quantification can be expressed in many other ways, including all of, for each, given any, for arbitrary, for each, for any. So there is an expression for any which is actually ambiguous. So it is better to avoid using for any x because it confuses actually with some or every. We can assume its meaning as every, or sometimes we can assume its meaning as some. So it is ambiguous as to whether any means every or some. So in some cases, any is not ambiguous, such as when it is used in negatives. For example, there is not any reason to avoid studying. So this is actually using this is actually meaning or implying the universal quantification. A statement for all x, Px is false where Px is propositional function if and only if Px is not always true when x is in the domain, right? So a statement is for all x, Px is false where Px is a propositional function if and only if Px is not always true. That is, if we are able to find a value of x for which Px is not true, then for all x, Px is false. So one way to show that Px is not always true when x is in the domain, so domain is very important, is to find a counter example to statement for all x, Px. So if we are able to find a counter example, then for all x, Px is false. Note that a single counter example is all we need to establish that for all x, Px is false. Because for all x, Px is true if and only if this is Px is true for every x in the domain. So if there is a single x in the domain for which Px is not true, then for all x, Px is false. So there is an example. Let Qx be the statement x is less than 2. What is the truth value of the quantification for all x, Qx, where domain consists of all the real numbers? So x is less than 2. So there are several real numbers which are greater than 2, right? So for this, we can quote an example which is called counter example. For example, we have 3, which is greater than 2, or we may say 3 is less than 2 is false. So we have a counter example for which Qx is false, that is Q3 is false. So for all x, Qx is false. Now suppose that Px is x square is greater than 0. X square is greater than 0. To show that the statement for all x, Px false, where the universe of discourse consists of all the integers. Now universe of discourse is all the integers and Px is x square is greater than 0. So for all x, Px, what is the truth value for all x, Px? Now since we have an integer 0 which for which Px is false, that is P0 is false and 0 is an integer, of course 0 belongs to domain of discourse. So this means for all x, Px is not true, right? So we have a counter example. So this implies that for all x, Px is false. So keeping this in mind, this concept of finding counter example in mind, we can say that all the elements in the domain, if all the elements in the domain can be listed x1, x2, xn, so it follows that the universal quantification for all xpx is same as the conjunction px1 and px2 and pxn, because this conjunction is true if and only if px1, px2, pxn all are true. So we can think of the universal quantification as the conjunction of px1, px2 and pxn, where x1, x2, xn are the elements of the domain of test course. So what is the truth value of for all x px, where px is a statement x square is less than 10 and domain consists of the positive integers not exceeding 4. Positive integers not exceeding 4, that is, our domain consists of 1, 2, 3, 4. So it consists of only 4 elements. Now we have to check whether P1 and P2 and P3, that is conjunction of all the values of P in domain. So P4, if this is true, then for all x px is true. If this is false, then for all x px is false, right? So what is the truth value of P1? P1 means 1 is less than 10, and this is true, okay? What is the truth value of P2? So 2 square is 4, 4 is less than 10. So this is also true. And what is the truth value of P3? So P3 is 3 square, that is 9. 9 is less than 10, and this is again true. And what is the truth value of P4? So for this, we have to find P4. So P4 means 4 square, that is 16, less than 10. This is false. So because P4 is false, the conjunction is false, right? So the truth value for all x px is false. Now, next example. What does the statement for all x, nx means if nx is the computer x is connected to the network, and domain consists of all the computers on campus? So the statement for all x nx means that for every computer x on campus, the computer x is connected to the network. This statement can be expressed in English: every computer on campus is connected to the network. So this is how we can translate quantified statements into English, or we'll learn how to express English statements into quantified statements. What is the truth value for all x? X square is greater or equal to x if the domain consists of all real numbers. Okay, and what is the truth value of this statement if the domain consists of all integers? So first of all, let's see the case when domain consists of all real numbers. So for all x, let's assign a value x is equal to 1 over 2. Then x square is equal to 1 over 4. And you can see that 1 over 4 is less than 1 over 2. That is, in this case, x square is greater or equal to x is false, right? So we are able to find a counter example. So in case the domain consists of all real numbers, for all x, x square greater or equal to x is false. Okay. Now, in case of integers, this is going to be true, right? So in case of integers, this is true because there are no integers. X with this property, right? So that is why this is true for all integers. So again, you can see the change of domain affects the truth value of the quantified statement, right? Next type of quantifiers, which is called existential quantifier. The existential quantifier of Px is the proposition there exists an element x in the domain such that Px. We use the notation for this. There exists xpx for the existential quantification of Px, and this symbol is called the existential quantifier. So a domain must always be specified when a statement there exists xpx is used. Just as in the universal quantifier, domain was very important. So domain is as important in existential quantifier. So furthermore, the meaning of there exists xpx changes when the domain changes. Without specifying the domain, the statement there exists xpx has no meaning. So keep this in mind. Besides the phrase there exists, we can also express existential quantification in many other ways, like we did in universal quantification. In existential quantifier can be expressed as by using the words for some, for at least one, or there is. The existential quantification is read as there is an x such that Px, or there is at least one x such that Px, or for some x Px. So there are a few examples. If Px denotes x greater than 0 and domain is the set of integers, then there exists x Px, that is there is an x such that Px is true. It is also true if domain is positive integers, because x greater than 0, we just have to find at least one x in the domain for which this Px is true. So for example, 2 is greater than 0, so we have the integers for which this statement is true. So this existential quantification is true for the domain of integers and for the domain of positive integers. If Px denotes x less than 0, the domain is positive integers. Now just look at the domain. Domain is positive integers and we have a statement x is less than 0. So there exists x Px is false, because positive integer can never be less than 0. So in this case, this statement is false. So if Px denotes x is even and domain is the set of integers, so there exists x Px is true. So here is a table which helps us assign the truth value to the quantified statements. So if we have a statement for every x Px, then this is true when Px is true for every x. This is false if there is an x for which Px is false. And the statement there is an x Px is true when there is an x for which Px is true. And this is false when Px is false for every x, right? So there is another example for existential quantifier. Let Px denote the statement x is greater than 3. What is the truth value of the quantification? There exists x, there is an x Px where the domain consists of all real numbers. So we have real numbers which are greater than 3. So this is going to be true. Unique quantifier, uniqueness quantifier. This is not a very well-known type of quantification, but sometimes we use this, and this is defined, and this is defined and actually denoted by this symbol. So this is a symbol for existential quantifier. When we use this exclamation mark along with followed by this symbol, this symbol represents the uniqueness quantifier, and it means that Px is true for one and only one. This uniqueness actually says it all. Uniqueness means one and only one. So this statement means that Px is true for one and only one x in the universe of discourse. If it is true for more than one element, this statement will be false. This is commonly expressed in English in the following equivalent ways. There is a unique x such that Px. There is one and only one x such that Px. So if Px denotes x plus 1 is equal to 0 and domain is the set of integers, then this uniqueness quantifier is true, because we have only one value for which Px is true, and that is x is equal to minus 1, and this is integer as well. But if Px denotes x is greater than 0, then this is false, because we have more than one values, and we are again considering the same domain, that is the set of integers. So then this is false, because we have more than one integers for which Px is true. So for this statement, this uniqueness quantifier is false. Quantifiers with restricted domain. So an abbreviated notation is often used to restrict the domain of a quantifier. In this notation, a condition a variable must satisfy is included after the quantifier. So for example, this is the quantifier, which is the universal quantifier, and we are going to impose a condition on the variable just after the quantifier, that is x is less than 0, that is x is negative. For all x which are negative, x square is greater than 0. That is, for every negative value of and domain consists of real numbers, so every negative real number, for every negative real number, its square is positive. Similarly, if we have this statement, again this is the quantifier, and just after the quantifier we are going to impose the condition on the variable, that is y is not equal to 0, that is non-zero real numbers. Domain here for all the variables in this case is real numbers. So for non-zero real numbers, their cube is also non-zero. So for every non-zero real number, its cube is also non-zero, right? So similarly, there is third statement. There exists z greater than 0. Again, this z is the variable, and this is quantifier, existential quantifier, and just after the quantifier, we are going to impose the condition on the variable, that is positive real number. For positive real number, there is a positive real number for which z square is equal to 2, that is whose square is equal to 2. So there is a positive real number whose square is 2. So this is the same explanation actually I have already told you. Note that the restriction of universal quantification is same as the universal quantification of conditional statement. For instance, for all x less than 0, x square greater than 0 is another way of expressing for all x, x less than 0 implies x square is greater than 0, okay? On the other hand, the restriction on existential quantification is same as the existential quantification of conjunction. For instance, there exists z greater equal to 0, z square is equal to 2 is other way expressing there exists z greater than 0 and z square is equal to 2. So we cannot use conditional for existential, and we cannot use in this case conjunction in case of universal quantification. So this is very important note. Just remember this. Well, more about quantifiers. When the domain of discourse is finite, we can think of quantification as looping through the elements of the domain. So to evaluate for all x, px loop through all x in domain. if at every step px is true, then for all x px is true. If at a step px is false, then for all x px is false and the loop terminates. And to evaluate there exists px, loop through all x in the domain. If at some step px is true, then there exists x px is true and the loop terminates. And if the loop ends without finding an x for which px is true, then there exists px is false. So even if the domain are infinite, we can still think of quantifiers this fashion, but the loops will not terminate in some cases. Now the truth value of there is an x px and for all x px depend on both propositional function px and on the domain. If domain is positive integers and px is the statement x is less than 2, then there is some x px is true, but for all x px is false. Domain is positive integers, right? And x is less than 2. So we have one positive integer for which x is less than true. So that is why this is true, right? But every positive integer is not less than 2. So that is why this is false. Second example, if domain is negative integers and px is the statement, same statements, then both are true, right? So if domain is negative integers and px is the same statement, so see, changing domain can affect the truth value. Now there is some x px is also true because they are every negative number is actually less than 2. Similarly, for all x px is also true because every negative integer is less than 2. And third example, if domain consists of 3, 4, 5, that is only 3 values, and px is the statement x is greater than 2, then again both existential and universal quantification are true, right? But if px is the statement x is less than 2, then both existential and universal quantification are false, because 3 is greater than 2 is false, 4 is greater than 2 is false, 5 is, sorry, I had to check this. So 3 is less than 2 is false, 4 is less than 2 is false, 5 is less than 2 is false. For every element in domain, this statement is false. When we loop through every element in domain, we found that this statement is false for every element in the domain. So that is why both existential and universal quantifications are false. Binding variables. When a quantifier is used on variable x, we say that this occurrence of the variable is bound. An occurrence of the variable that is not bound by a quantifier or set equal to a particular value is said to be free. All the variables that occur in propositional function must be bound or set equal to a particular value to turn into a proposition. This can be done using a combination of universal quantifiers, existential quantifiers, and value assignment. So the part of logical expression to which a quantifier is applied is called the scope of this quantifier. Consequently, a variable is free if it is outside the scope of all the quantifiers in the formula that specify this variable. So let's have a look at the example in order to understand all these terms. So there is an example. We have a statement. There is some x plus y is equal to 1. Now the variable x is bound by the existential quantification. Okay, that is, there is some x, but the variable y is free because it is not bound by any type of quantifier and no value is assigned to this variable. So this illustration that in the statement there exists x plus y is equal to 1, x is bound, y is free. Okay. Now in the statement there exist Px and Qx, or for all x, Rx, all variables are bound. The scope of the first quantifier, there exists x, is the expression Px and Qx, whereas the scope of the universal quantifier is the expression Rx, right? So the existential quantifier binds the variable x in this scope, and the universal quantifier binds the variable in this scope. So observe that we could have written our statement using two different variables x and y, as there exist Px and Qx, or for all y, Ry. So because the scopes of two quantifiers do not overlap, they are independent. So we can use different variables as well. But there is no harm in using one variable for two different scopes and for two different quantifiers. Precedence of quantifiers. So the quantifiers for all and universal and existential have higher precedence than all the logical operators. For example, for all x, Px or Qx, if there is no bracket here, then we'll assume that this for all x is the universal quantifier is used only for Px. That is, scope for this x is Px, right? Or we mean it by this or Qx. That is, Qx is the out of the scope of this universal quantification. Because for all x, Px or Qx means something different. So these two are different statements altogether. So order matters. So precedence of quantifiers is very important. Translating from English to logic. So let's have few examples. For this, translate the following sentence into predicate logics. Every student in this class has taken a course in Java. So while translating the English sentences into logic, we have to define domain at first place. So without defining a domain and without deciding a domain, the logical statement has no meaning. You know it very well. So first decide on the domain. So there can be two possibilities. If domain is the students in the class, all the students in the class, and we define a propositional function Jx denoting x has taken a course in Java, then this statement can be translated into logic as for all x, Jx. Okay. But if the domain consists of all people and we define a propositional function Sx such that x is student in the class, then this same statement can be translated as for all x, Sx implies Jx. Okay. So we cannot write for all x, Sx and Jx. This is not correct. Okay. So what does it mean? Actually, this statement says that all people are students in this class and have taken a course in Java. So of course this is not correct. So be careful while using conditional and conjunction in the quantified statements. Translate the following sentence into predicate logic. Some students in this class has taken a course in Java. Now this some indicates we are going to use existential quantifier. So again, we have to decide the domain. And if the domain is all student in the class, this statement can be translated as there exists x, Jx, because we have already defined x has taken a course in Java by Jx. Okay. So this is related to previous example. But if domain consists of all the people, then this can be translated as there is some x such that x is student in the class and x has taken course in Java. And in this case, this conditional statement is not correct. Now think why. Well, next concept in predicate logic is the equivalences. Equivalences in predicate logic. So statement involving predicates and quantifiers are logically equivalent if and only if they have the same truth value. For every predicate substituted into these statements and for every domain of discourse used for the variables in the expressions. The notation S is equivalent to T indicates that S and T are logically equivalent. There is an example. For all x, double negation of Sx is equivalent to for all x Sx, where Sx is any propositional function. Well, there is an example in your book, example number 19. Show that for all x px and qx and for all x px and for all x qx are logically equivalent, where the same domain is used throughout. Okay, this logical equivalence shows that we can distribute a universal quantifier So in order to prove that the statements are logically equivalent, we must show that they always take the same truth value, no matter what the predicate P and Q are, and no matter which domain of discourse is used. So we have to show that both the statements, quantified statements, have same truth value for any type of predicate P and Q and for any type of domain of discourse. So suppose we have particular predicates P and Q with a common domain. We can show that for all x px and qx and for all x px and for all x qx are logically equivalent by doing two things. Number one, we show that if for all x px and qx is true, then for all x px and for all x qx is true. Okay. Secondly, we show that if for all x px and for all x qx is true, then for all x px and qx is true. So first we'll show that if this is true, then this is true, then we'll show that its converse is true. So suppose that for all x, so initially suppose that for all x px and qx is true. This means that if A is in the domain. Now for all x px and qx is true. This is our assumption. Okay. So this means if A is in the domain, then PA and QA is true. Right? PA and QA is true. Then this statement is true for all x. But if PA and QA is true, then PA and QA is true only when PA is true and QA both are true, right? So this implies PA is true and QA is true. Now since A is arbitrary, so we can say that for all x px and for all x qx, both are true. And if both are true, then we can conclude that for all x px and for all x qx is true. So first part has been proved. Okay. Next, suppose that for all x px and for all x qx is true. Now it follows that for all x px is true and for all x qx is true, because conjunction is true only when both the statements are true. So hence again, if A is an element in the domain, then since for all x px is true, then PA is true. And since qx is true for all x, then QA is also true. Right? So what does this mean? This means PA and QA is true. Because PA is true, QA is true, then their conjunction is also true. So it follows that since A is arbitrary, it follows that PX and QX is true for all x. So we can now conclude that for all x, px and qx is equivalent to for all x px and for all x qx. So this logical equivalence shows that we can distribute a universal quantifier over a conjunction. Furthermore, we can also distribute an existential quantifier over a disjunction, right? However, we cannot distribute a universal quantifier over a disjunction, nor can we distribute an existential quantifier over a conjunction. So quantifiers as conjunction and disjunctions, if the domain is finite, then we can think of the universal quantifier as the conjunction and the existential quantifier as the disjunction. So even if the domains are infinite, we can still think of quantifiers in this fashion, but the equivalent expressions without quantifiers will be infinitely long. Next, negating quantified expressions. So what is the negation of for all x jx? Every student in your class has taken a course in Java, right? For all x jx actually represents every student in your class has taken a course. This is reference to the previous example. So here jx says x has taken a course in Java and the domain is student in your class. So what is the negation? Negating the original statement gives, it is not the case that every student in your class has taken the course in Java. This implies there is a student in your class who has not taken Java. So negation of this quantified, universal quantified, is actually there is some student who is not taking a course in Java. It means there is some x negation jx. So negation of universal quantifier is the existential quantifier of negation of propositional function. So these two statements are equivalent. So if we have an existential quantified statement, so there is a student in this class who has taken a course in Java where jx is x has taken a course in Java. So negating the original statement, it means there is no student actually. It is not the case that there is a student in this class who has taken Java. This implies that every student in this class has not taken Java, right? So every student not taken Java means for all x negation jx. So these two are equivalent, okay? So this is how we can represent negations of these quantified statements. So this is the table, negation of the existential quantifier, and this is the negation of universal quantifier, right? So this is the relation between these negations. So negation of universal quantification is the existential quantification negation of P, and negation of existential is equivalent to universal quantification of negation of P. And these are very important. These are called De Morgan's laws for quantifiers. So we are going to use these laws in next examples in order to negate the quantified statements. So when the domain of predicate consists of n elements, where n is the positive integer greater than 1, the rules for negating quantified statement are exactly the same as De Morgan's law. So this is why these rules are called De Morgan's laws for quantifiers. When the domain has n elements, x1, x2, xn, it follows that negating for all x px is same as negating px1 and px2 and pxn. We know that universal quantifier can be represented as conjunction. So negating this conjunction means by using De Morgan's law, we have negation of px, disjunction of all the negations actually. So this gives us this quantified statement. So you can see that negation of for all x px is equivalent to there exists x negation px. So this is the proof of this relation, this equivalence relation. Similarly, since we know that existential quantifier can be represented by the disjunction, so negation of disjunction is the conjunction of all the negations, right? So this is how we can write negation of there exists x px is equivalent to for all x negation px, right? So there is an example. What are the negations of the statement there is an honest politician and all Americans eat cheeseburgers? So let's assign propositional functions to the statement used in this statement. So let hx denote x is honest. Then the statement there is an honest politician is represented by there exists x hx, where the domain consists of all the politicians. This domain is very important. If domain is all the politicians, then we can write this statement as there exists x hx. Now the negation of this statement, which is equivalent to for all x negation x, right? So the negation can be expressed in English, every politician is dishonest, right? So all politicians are not honest, okay, is ambiguous. All politicians are not honest is ambiguous. So we have to make sure that we are negating the existence of any honest politician, okay? So this is the better statement in this case. Okay, next statement, all Americans eat cheeseburger. Let's assign a propositional function for the statement. Cx denote x eats cheeseburger, and the statement all Americans eat cheeseburger is represented by for all x cx, where the domain, again domain is very important, where domain consists of all Americans. Okay, now what is the negation of this? All Americans eat cheeseburgers. So by the De Morgan's law, it means for all negation of for all x cx is going to be there exists x negation of cx. So in English, we can represent the negation of all Americans eat cheeseburger as some American does not eat cheeseburgers, and there are a few Americans, or there is an American who does not eat cheeseburger. What is the negation of the statement for all x? X square is greater than x, and there exists x square is equal to 2. So let's see one by one. The negation of for all x square is greater than x is the statement. Negation for all x square is less than x. So which is actually equivalent to this. There exists x negation of x square greater than x. That is, there exists x square is less than x. So negation of x square is greater than x is x square is less or equal to x, right? So the next statement, the negation of there exists x square is equal to 2 is the statement negation of there exists x is equal to 2. Now with the help of De Morgan's law, we can write this as for all x negation of x square is equal to 2. So this can be rewritten as for all x square is not equal to 2, because negation of x square is equal to 2 is x square is not equal to 2, right? So the truth value, we are not going to assign any truth value. Truth value depends upon the domain, of course. So show that negation for all x px implies qx, and there exist px and negation qx are logically equivalent. So again, we'll use the De Morgan's laws to prove this, and I'll leave it to you. So do it yourself. Some students in the class has visited Mexico. So again, we have to define a propositional function for the statement used in this for the proposition used in this statement. So mx denote x has visited Mexico. Now sx denote x is a student in the class, and domain be all people. Again, we can choose domain as student in the class or domain as all people. So we are first going to deal with the domain when domain is the people, all people. consists of all people. So in this case, some students, some means we are going to use existential quantifier. So there exists x, sx and mx. I told you we cannot use here the when we use existential quantifier, we are not going to use conditional statement. So sx and mx. Caution. So there is a caution. Above statement cannot be expressed as sx implies mx. There exists x, sx implies mx, which is true when there is someone not in the class, because in that case, for such a person, x, sx implies mx becomes either false implies true or false implies false. So both of which are true. And this is not required at all, of course. So we are talking about students in the class. So this can be true when a person is not in the class. So that is why this cannot be written instead of this, okay? So if the domain for X consists of students in this class, we can translate this statement as this statement, that is, some student in this class has visited Mexico. There exists X, MX, okay? So this is enough for this, if the domain is the students in the class. Every student in this class has visited Canada or Mexico. Now again, it depends upon the domain. So CX denoting X has visited Canada. So domain being all people first. So for all X, XX implies MX or CX, right? So if the domain consists of the students in this class, then this statement can be expressed as for all X, CX and CX or MX, because in this statement you can see that every student in this class has visited Canada or Mexico, right? So that is why you can see or in between. Express the statement, every student in this class has studied calculus using predicate and quantifier. Now you can do it yourself, because we have already done a similar example. This is example number 23 in the book. So you can do it yourself. So let me write, do it yourself. This is my favorite part actually. Well, using quantifier in system specifications, predicate logic is used for specifying properties that system must satisfy. There is an example in the book. Use predicate and quantifiers to express the system specifications. Every mail message larger than 1 megabyte will be compressed. And if a user is active, at least one network link will be available. So again, we have to assign propositional functions to the statements. So first statement, mail message is larger than 1 megabyte, right? So mail message is larger than 1 megabyte. Y megabyte means this indicates SMY, where M is mail message M is larger than Y megabytes, where the variable X has the domain of all mail messages. X here is M. All mail messages, and the variable Y is positive real number. And let CM denote the mail message M will be compressed. So there is another variable proposition function, mail message M will be compressed. So then the specification, every mail message larger than 1 megabyte will be compressed, can be represented, every mail message, that is, we are going to use universal quantifier for all. Every mail message larger than 1 megabyte, every M such that SM1. So SMY represents every mail message. Mail message M is larger than Y megabytes. Now every mail message which is larger than 1 megabyte, that is SM1, implies will be compressed, right? Implies CM. That is, every mail message larger than 1 megabyte will be compressed. So this is how we can transform into logic the system specifications. Okay, next statement. If a user is active, at least one network link will be available. Okay, again we have to assign the propositional function. AU represents user U is active. Okay, where the variable U has the domain for all users, and let SNX denote network link N is in state X. Okay, where N has the domain of all network links and X has the domain of all possible states for a network link. Then the specification, if a user is active, at least one link will be available, can be represented by. Now, if user is active, at least one link, that is existential uh, quantifier would be used. So there exists U, AU implies there is N such that Sn available. Okay. Now, what is SNX? Network link N is in state X. Now, in this case, state is available. Okay. So this is how we can represent system specifications as quantifiers in terms of quantifiers. So there is Lewis Carroll example. The first two are called premises, and we'll learn these premises and conclusions in next sections. So all lions are fierce. Some lions do not drink coffee. Some fierce creatures do not drink coffee. So how can we represent this as the logical expressions? So for this, we have to assign the propositional functions. So if Px, Qx, and Rx represent X is a lion, X is fierce, X drinks coffee respectively, then how can we translate these two statements into logical statements? All lines are fierce. That is, for all X, Px implies Qx because domain consists of all the creatures, right? Domain does not consist of all lines. So domain consists of all the creatures. All lines are fierce. That is, for all X, when X is a lion, then X is fierce. Okay. Some lines do not drink coffee. So there exists X, X is a line, and X does not drink coffee because Rx represent X drinks coffee. Some fierce creatures do not drink coffee. So again existential, there is some X, X is fierce, right? And X does not drink coffee. So X is fierce is represented by the propositional function Qx. So Qx and negation Rx. So notice that the second statement cannot be written again, the same story. It cannot be written as the conditional statement. Whenever we have the existential quantifier, we cannot write it as the conditional statement. So there is another example, and you will do it yourself. This is example number 27 in the book. So that's all for today's lecture. Bye-bye.